Well, the Atlantic 10 will get interesting tonight on CBS Sports Network with VCU looking to extend their win streak on the road tonight to 7 straight. The Rams are 6-1 in conference play with St. Louis on the opposite side. By the way, the Pelicans looking to rebound after that loss to George Washington a few days ago. But the good thing for them, home cooking has been a key factor. They're 10-1 at the crib so far this season. When you look at the conference as a whole, this is how it stands right now. VCU, the Rams, still at the top 6-1, right behind them, George Mason. And then we find St. Louis at 5-2. So a win tonight for the Pelicans can bode well in conference play. For more on the conference, we got our palm reading here on HQ. Jerry Palm tapping in on HQ. And Jerry, let's just start there with the Rams. 16-4 in the season, and they're rolling at this point. I mentioned the win streak. What's the best chance for them at an 8-10 tourney bid?
Yeah, well, best chance for them is to actually win the league. But because they don't really have a lot of margin for error. They've been the most consistent team in the league for sure. But they don't have the big win that's going to get the committee's attention. So they need to string wins together like they have been, but they don't have a big margin for error because of the lack of tournament quality wins against other teams that might make the NCAA tournament. So they might be able to lose once or twice more in the regular season and still have an outside shot at an at-large. But really, the margin for error for VCU as an at-large team is pretty small.
Over in the SEC, the margin of error as well as wins means something there. We'll get another piece of that tonight with Kentucky and Tennessee facing off. How important does this one matter for both teams if we're talking about seeding in the future?
Yeah, it's a bigger deal for Kentucky, I think, because it'd be a big road win over Tennessee. And obviously for Tennessee, you want to defend your home floor. And Tennessee has a chance, possibly Friday or maybe Monday, to jump back up to a #1 seed in my bracket following Iowa State's loss last night. So, you know, they're in a battle for a #1 seed. Kentucky isn't really in that battle right now, but maybe they can start to make a case for themselves as if they can win at Tennessee. It's going to take more than that for Kentucky with 5 losses already to climb to that top line. But boy, the top of the SEC has been super competitive this year with 7 teams in the top 16 of my bracket.
Question here, because when we talk about the conference, you mentioned the level of competition. You know, we've spoke to so many people. Avery Johnson believes they could be 8-10 deep when we're talking about tournament time. I'm curious, your thoughts, how many teams can be going to the big dance when you look at the numbers here from the SEC?
I would say 8 would be a disappointment if it ends up being only 8. I have 13 in the bracket I did on Monday. Now, you know, that's not sustainable as these teams start to beat each other up a little bit. You're going to see some attrition, but 10, 11, yeah, those are certainly realistic numbers for the SEC, depending on how these teams in the bottom half of the league play down the stretch of this season.
Double digits in the SEC. I'll take it. We're going to hold on to that 13. I'm pretty sure we'll have that discussion a little bit later. I want to look over in the Big East because maybe the biggest surprise, not just in the conference, but maybe in college basketball, St. John's this season. Second in the Big East there, ranked in the top 20 on a 6-game win streak there. Rick Pitino clearly flipping a switch. What have you noticed about their upward trend?
The consistent level of play. They haven't really lost anybody they shouldn't lose to. They don't have the big win yet, but they haven't really hit that part of their schedule. They played at Creighton already. That was a loss. They swept Xavier. That's their best wins, but they've only lost 3 times. They don't have a bad loss. So that's a really consistent level of play. Now, they've got the home and home with Marquette. They've got the home and home with UConn. They have the home game with Creighton still. So Seton Hall is a middle-of-the-bracket team for me right now just because of the lack of higher quality wins. But if they can string some of those together in this upcoming part of their schedule, then they have a high upward mobility as they start to go through the better teams in the Big East.
We see it there at the beginning of February. You get #9 Marquette and UConn, always a bully in that conference there. 25 to land on February 7th. As always, Jerry Palm with the latest palm reading. Appreciate it as always, Jerry. Keeping us tapped in on everything on the court. But don't forget, later tonight, we got a double header for you when it comes to hoops. We mentioned VCU and St. Louis. That streak there for the Rams at 8 Eastern. And then Cincinnati at Utah right after that at 10 Eastern tonight. You can catch it on Sports Network and also streaming on that CBS Sports app.